Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's your girl, Just Miss J. So today we'll be ranking education jobs by stress and flexibility. So, in my experience, um, being a, so in my experience, I'm gonna say in order, and this is gonna be my order. I'm gonna start with substitute, paraprofessional, classroom teacher, school counselor. And I probably should flip school counselor and classroom teacher, because to me, classroom teacher is more stressful than school counselor. School counselor really wasn't that stressful. And substitute teaching is not stressful because that's just to me. But anyway, let's get into it. So, as a substitute teacher, the day was structured by the lesson plan. It was structured by whatever the teacher left for you to do. So if they left a lesson plan, great. Now sometimes you have teachers who, depend on what grade level, because I've subbed them all, and I've subbed in elementary, middle, and high, and I've been in a classroom where the teacher didn't leave a lesson plan. She just left worksheets for the kids to do and put sticky notes on it saying this is what they do. And I was like, okay. With the younger elementary, and that was in elementary school, with like your kindergarten, first and second, those teachers are going to leave a sub binder with detailed information. If they don't leave the sub binder, they're going to have like 2 or 3 sheets of paper telling you what to do for the day. They're going to have handouts to the side telling you what to do for the day. In kindergarten and pre-K and kindergarten, you got it made because you got a parent in there. So most of the time the parent is going to take over the class and you're just there. So, like I said, the day was structured by the lesson plan, but your role is flexible. Your emotional energy is very low to moderate. So you just need presence. So the kids need to know you're there. They need to know you're stern. They need to know you're firm. But it's not like an emotional investment. The day is predictable once it's started, and the schedule is varied. It's easy to clock out. My most recent substituting experience this month, I clocked out. Like it was, and I was in high school, so I definitely clocked out. When the day ends, the role stays at school, and it's very short term. So your long term sustainability is short term and it's seasonal. And the work varies by district. So it varies by district. Every district is different, and that goes as far as states. Every district is different what they ask their subs to do. But in my opinion, it's the least stressful, it's the least demanding, and it's very flexible with your day-to-day life. Paraprofessional, it's highly structured with very limited flexibility, especially around schedules and assigned support. So you might be an instructional support para where you're going in the classroom and helping the teachers with a group of students. You might be a SPED para where you're going in a classroom and you're doing pull-out with certain students. You might be a kindergarten para where you're only strictly with one teacher. Same with pre-K, you're only with one teacher. And you with SPED, you could either be doing general ed class or you're in a classroom with a special ed teacher teaching a specialized, teaching like your MOID, your autism, teaching your special needs kids. You might be in that setting as a parapro. So, like I said, it's structured with limited flexibility, especially if you're assigned a particular role. The emotional energy is moderate. So I was closely supporting students when I did para in elementary school in my hometown, where I stay at now, Muskogee County. When I did the first time before I ever moved from here, I was working with third grade. So I was in all three third grade classes. I think it was just three. I was in all three classes. And in every class, I had certain students I had to work with. So, yeah. Um, and I didn't do a lot of one-on-one. I had like small groups. So I had at least like 3 or 4 kids. But for the most part, I had three. Um, and the predictability is very predictable day-to-day routines. So you know what you're going to be doing unless one of the teachers is out and they need a sub. Half the time when I was doing para, one of the teachers would always get me to sub her class because she said they always acted better with me than they did with a regular sub. Because sometimes they would have a sub, I'd go in there with the class, they wouldn't act right, so I would go up there, get them to be quiet, and the sub would be sitting there like, she should just let you sub. So from that point on, that one particular teacher in third grade always had me to sub her class when she left. Or she had to leave at half a day, I did that. But it's very predictable day-to-day routine. So you go in there, you already know what you're finna be doing. You finna pull your 3 kids to the back table, and y'all finna sit back there and work. Unless you do SPED, where you can pull them out and take them to the SPED para classroom and work with them like that. But I was in instructional support in gen ed. I just went in the classrooms. I had a table in the back. That's where we went. Mentally clocking out is mostly easy to clock out. Because when you go home from work, you're not taking any work home as a parent. And that's regardless of what role, what type of support you're in as a parent. You're not taking any work home at all. Like, none. And even though some students need linger mentally, because sometimes depending on what the kids have told you, you might take that home, you might think about it. But for me, when I went home, it was easy. It's just like subbing. It's easy. It's easy to clock out. Long-term sustainability, for me, it felt sustainable for a period, but that's dependent on the workload and the support. But it can work. Definitely can work. But it depends on where you are in your life at that moment. Okay. Classroom teacher is very structured. Very structured. No room for flexibility. Very structured. I wouldn't say no room for flexibility. I just say it's very limited. Once the students arrive, flexibility is very limited. Your emotional energy is high, so it's high. It's required constant emotional, mental, and physical engagement. A lot. And I taught third, first, second, and kindergarten. And I would say kindergarten is definitely a lot more than any other grade, but definitely very high emotional energy. Very predictable schedule. Very predictable schedule. The kids learn it quick if you do what you're supposed to do at them scheduled times. But you do have unpredictable moments throughout the day, like fire drill, because students don't know when we're having a fire drill. Intruder drill, students don't know when we're having that. Teachers know, but students don't. What I said, fire drill, intruder drill, lockdown drill, tornado drill. You never know when you have one of those. As a teacher, when I taught third grade, half the time I didn't know when we were having tornado drill. Those are some unpredictable moments. Sometimes if your student says certain things like behaviors, sometimes the behaviors are unpredictable, especially if you have a behavior student, because you never know what you're getting with that student. So yeah, you have unpredictable moments throughout the day. But the schedule is predictable. You know what time specials is. You know what time you're going outside for recess. You know what special you're having that day if you have a rotating schedule for every day of the week. You know when math is supposed to occur. You know when reading is. You know when small group is. You know when lunch is. You know that stuff, like the classroom schedule, you know. But some of those unpredictable moments that happen throughout the day, you don't be prepared for that. Mentally clocking out is very challenging. It's hard not to take work home. You have to make yourself not take the work home because you have planning, you have grading, you have problem solving that extends beyond school hours. So yeah, it's a lot. You have parents who want to communicate with you when you get off work, and you're like, sweetie, you have to put boundaries. Like, in order to clock out mentally, you have got to set boundaries. If not, it's going to be challenging. Long-term sustainability. It was a personal fit. It fit, but it's difficult when you don't have boundaries and support. And it's difficult when you have your mental health, you need support. Because if you don't have support with that, yeah. But I mean, it fit. It just wasn't something I could see myself doing right then and there. School counselor. It's a mix of structure and flexibility. So as a school counselor, you definitely need to be flexible. There is a schedule. You have a schedule. You actually do have a schedule, but you need to be flexible because your schedule basically goes with the students' needs throughout the day. So sometimes because your students, their needs are going to shape your day to day. So student needs are going to shape it. So that's why you need to be flexible. The emotional energy is high, but it's focused. It's more focused. It's more intentional. So like classroom teacher, high emotional energy, but that's because you need emotional, mental, and physical engagement. You have to be engaged to teach. With school counselor, the emotional energy is high, but it's more focused because you are basically only doing social, emotional, academic, and behavioral counseling with the kids. So it's, like I said, it's focused because you know exactly what you're focusing on, and it's intentional. Predictability is less predictable day to day because due to students' needs and crises. So with school counseling, you don't know what you really finna do every day. You have like I said, you have a schedule, but sometimes you don't get to stick to that schedule. You have other duties as assigned with school counseling. Mentally clocking out, it can have its challenges. It's hard because sometimes, like I said, with teaching, you'll have some stuff that'll happen and it'll still be on your mind. You still have to problem solve. But with counseling, it's easier with clear boundaries because it's easier to set boundaries with school counseling. So I wouldn't say it's moderately challenging. I would say for me, it was easy because I'll stick with what moderately challenging, because I did have some students that, especially during COVID, I was like, I wonder what they're doing, how they're doing, if they need anything, and I constantly checked on them. So like you do have, but I had clear boundaries. Like my parents, as a school counselor, they were not contacting me after school hours. They were not. I didn't check work after school hours. So that one was easier to set clear boundaries. Long-term sustainability, it was definitely more sustainable for me than classroom teaching. But it varies on school and caseload. And that was because it was 2 school counselors and we split the caseload. She had lower elementary, I had upper. So, but we had sibling groups. So the sibling groups, we would work together with them. But it definitely was more sustainable for me than classroom teaching. Like, it definitely worked. So my most balanced role was substitute teaching at that time. In my experience, it was most balanced. The most energy management was classroom teaching, because it requires the most energy. Like you got to come in with the energy because the kids can feel it, they can feed off of it, and If you're not engaged, they're not engaged. If you're not motivated, they're not motivated. But my best fit for life outside of school, substitute teaching and school counseling. They offered the most flexibility depending on the setting. So for me, those are my two favorites. Like, I'm not even gonna hold you down. I'm not even gonna hold you, because currently, right now, after leaving teaching, I am currently substituting, and it fits my current lifestyle situation now. But I definitely want to get back into school counseling because it definitely fits my life. Because, like I said, I can leave work at work, and I don't have to worry about bringing it home. But yeah, so in the comments, I want to hear your experience with education. If you work multiple roles in education, drop in the comments below how you rank your different roles in education. So until the next video, peace.